Um, this will be a quick, short Google Earth tutorial for those of you who are still struggling to figure some of the controls out. Before I start, I just want to say Google Earth might be new to a lot of people, but not to make anyone feel bad, but Google Earth is actually really easy to use, and there's tons of information out there on the web to help you with Google Earth. So a simple Google Earth tutorial, there's tons and tons of videos on how to navigate Google Earth and all of the really cool tools you can use in Google Earth outside of what we do in lab. Okay, but I'm going to quickly run through Lab 8. So I have Lab 8 up here. I'm not going to go through parts 1 or 2, but I'm going to start with 3. So here we go. So I have my Google Earth open. And let me pull up the Google Doc so I can see what we have in his instructions. Okay, so for Lab 8, you really don't actually have to do much of anything. So Lab 8 is really getting familiar with Google Earth, all of the tools that we can use in Google Earth, which will help you in future labs when we actually start doing things and looking at data. So the first question is find your house. So that seems pretty simple, and I think everyone is okay with that question. Looking at the latitude and longitude and elevation of your home. So where are these tools located? The latitude and longitude is located at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Elevation, also in the right-hand corner. Eye elevation, all of that is in the right-hand corner. Okay, so that's pretty simple. You can search it in the toolbar, your address, and it'll fly you to that address. So that seems like everyone is pretty much on board with that. Okay, so the next question is to make a screenshot of the Himalayan mountain range in 3D. Okay, so how do we do this? So I already have, and let me actually just type it in, Mount Everest. Okay, so I'll search for it. It'll take me there. I'm already here. Okay, so there we go. So when I type in Mount Everest, it takes me to this map view of it, right? So you can imagine that I'm in a plane or in a satellite and I'm flying over Mount Everest and I'm looking at it in map view, right? But we want to look at it in 3D. So before we go that, one really nice test to see if our 3D layer is working is if you scroll down here to the layers, you have a bunch of different layers that you can turn on and off. So one of these is 3D buildings, which is right here in the lower left-hand corner. If I click off my search, it'll be a little bit larger. So I have 3D buildings, I have ocean, weather, gallery, global awareness. Play with these tabs. So turn them on and off and see what they do. A lot of times they'll have little information boxes on them that you can click on. So let's see, for example, if I click on global awareness, let's see what it does. Okay, so they'll have these little symbols. If I click on them, okay, it'll give me a little blurb on what this global awareness pin wants to tell me. So an accelerated melting of the Himalayan glaciers could affect approximately 40% of the global population. Okay, so these are just tools that you can use. Okay, so there's nothing in this lab asking you to do this, but these are just some of the different layers that you can turn on and off. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off again. I'm going to leave terrain on. I'm going to leave this terrain box checked because I will show you. Where'd my Mount Everest go? Somewhere in here. All right, I'll just show you a couple examples. So if I turn this terrain off, on and off, oops. Okay, so this is on, and this is off if it decides. Sometimes this is a little laggy. There we go. Okay, so it doesn't really do much. There's a little bit more detail when you have the terrain turned on. Okay, but I'm going to check my 3D layer and make sure it's working. Okay, so I'm going to fly to New York City. Okay, so here we go. Fly to New York City. Move me out of the way. Okay, here we go. So I flew to New York City, and again, I'm in map view, right? I'm hovering over New York City, but I want to see it in 3D. So I'm just going to literally keep zooming in and do this however you want, either with this tool where you can zoom in manually, or with your clicker cursor, you can, if you have one of those mouse pads where you can click in with your fingers. Okay, I'm zooming in. What do you notice about the buildings? Okay, so once they were in map view, as I zoom in, they're becoming more and more 3D, right? So now you can see that these buildings are all in 3D, which is really cool. And if you want to keep zooming in, you can see the exaggeration of these buildings, okay? So that's to check if your 3D layer is on and working, right? If I turn it off, everything's going to be pretty much flat, okay? I turn it back on again. Okay, this 3D buildings are nice, and you can see the 3D the 3 dimensions of these buildings in New York City. Okay, so that's a good test. Okay, just a heads up that not everywhere in the world is going to have this 3D capability. Okay, as nicely shown as these New York City buildings. Okay, Google Earth just isn't, you know, up with the technology as far as populating everywhere in the world with 3D capabilities. But there's a lot of places that you can go to that have these 3D capabilities. Okay, if I want to, let's see. So let's go back to Mount Everest. Okay, so Mount Everest. And I'm going to fly back over there. Okay. So here we go. So it's taken me right back to the top of Mount Everest in map view. Okay, but I want to look at it in 3D. So how do I do this? Go back to Google Earth. So I'm just going to keep zooming in, right? And then I'm just going to manipulate the view. So you have a couple of different wheel dials here, right? And play with these. So just familiarize yourselves with these. So you can go left, you can go right, you can go down, you can go up. You can flip this compass around so you're not looking north, you're looking south, or you're looking east or west, etc. So I'm going to keep the north, but I want to tilt my view. So I'm just going to tilt it with this up arrow, like so, right? And I'm just going to keep doing that. And now the landscape is starting to look 3D. So now you can see that mountain of Mount Everest, I'm not looking directly down on it. I'm looking at it almost at eye level. So I'm going to just keep clicking that. And you might want to manipulate it a little bit. So maybe you want to zoom out so you're not so zoomed into the mountain, and you want to look at the landscape. Okay, and then you can zoom in. Now this landscape is in 3D. Okay, so it's not as obvious as the New York City buildings, but you do see some 3 dimensions with this view here. Okay, so that's really as simple as it gets with that question, right? I'm going to go back to the Word document and see. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Okay, so now what is it asking me? Okay, so ignore part D. The elevation exaggeration. This is just a tool that we can use. Okay, so if I go to preferences, I can change the exaggeration of the elevation. So right now it's at a 1, which is the normal exaggeration. But if I want to see more an exaggerated view of the landscape, I can change it to 3. I can press OK. And hopefully it doesn't lag out on me, so I can show you what that looks like. Okay, it looks like it's working. Thinking about it. Give it a minute. Again, you don't have to really do anything with this tool. It's just to show you. Oop, there we go. Okay, so if I zoom out, right, it's going to really show and exaggerate that elevation. So 1 is the normal exaggeration of these mountains. But if I really want to get a gauge into how tall these mountains are, let's say compared to sea level, I can really exaggerate that elevation. And again, just manipulate the zoom. So I'm going to click this wheel here, this top arrow, just so I can start to get a 3D view, right? And now you can see, relatively speaking, how tall these mountains are compared to, let's say, this drainage basin at the base of the mountain. Okay, so that's how you change the exaggeration. So you go to Google Earth Pro, tab, Preferences, and then you just change the elevation exaggeration. So I'm going to change it back to 1. Okay, and give that a minute to do its thing. Okay, cool. Okay, so the next question that it asks is to, let's see, move it around, take a screenshot. Okay, so this is going to, so once I've got it in 3D, so I'm going to go back to my 3D, and this can look different for everybody. So it does, there's no right or wrong answer here, just as long as it's not exactly in map view. So this looks pretty good. I'm going to take a screenshot. Okay, and you can do this however you want. Okay, so with my computer, I do a screenshot with Control-Shift-4 because I have a Mac. So let's see if it does that and the movie still goes. Okay, so I'm going to just, okay, my face will be in there. Okay, so that little click, now I have my screenshot. And if I go to my desktop, and this is different for everyone's computer, so I can't really help everybody with that. My screenshot is going to, oh, here it goes. Okay, my screenshot is going to be in my desktop. So now that I have my screenshot, I can take this image and paste it right, again, sorry, wrong document, right into this Word here. So I can just insert that image right into this document. Okay, so that is how I do that. Okay, for number 3, create a place marker for some place that you like. So if you go back to Google Pro, okay, you can see that I already have a bunch of folders saved into this file, into this My Places. So what do? Go to My Places. So I'm going to get rid of, oops, a little bit of a lag. Let it do its thing. My computer is also overwhelmed with all these videos I've been making. Okay, so I'm going to click out of Mount Everest. I have My Places. So this is where all of my KMZ files and all of my places are being saved, right? I also have a temporary place folder here, right? Which is when I download a KMZ, this is where all of the files go. If I want to keep those files, then I can save them or drag them into my places. So for example, I have a temporary placeholder of a Grand Canyon elevation, right? I want to save that. All I do is simply just drag it into My Places. And again, it's a little bit of a lag, but there we go. Now I've saved it. Let's say I want to make a new folder. I go to My Places, I right click on it, add folder. What do I want to call it? Google Earth Tour, whatever you want. Or if you have a, let's say this lab, so lab 8, whatever. Click OK. Okay, so now I want to make some placeholders. What do I want to do? So here's all of my nice tools up here, right? And I click on my add placement. And let's say, I want to say Mount Everest. Okay, and you can always change the place marker icon. So let's say I want to make it blue. Okay. You can drag this anywhere, right? Let's say I want to put it over here. Done. Okay, so now I have a place saved under this folder, right? So when I click on this icon, it'll take me there and it's already here. so it's not going to fly me anywhere. But this is my pin. This is my saved place here in this folder. So that's as simple as that step goes, okay? And that, you really don't have to do anything for that question. It's just to show you how to do it. Okay, so you make a placeholder. You can call it whatever you want. You can save it in your folder, and then you'll always have it. So every time you open Google Earth and you want to go back to that place in Mount Everest and you want to look at it again, instead of trying to find it in Google Earth again and again, you just click on your pin and it'll take you right there. Okay, so that's how you do that. So that's for part, gosh, I gotta get rid of that document. Okay, so that's for part 3. Create a placeholder. Okay, so again, you do not have to include anything for this question, just to show you how to do it. Okay, so now we want to make an elevation profile across Massachusetts. Okay, so let's go to Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Search. Fly there. It'll take us to the great state of Massachusetts. If you want to turn on the borders, so again, this is a nice, that's places. If you want to turn on the borders, you can turn on your borders, and now I can see where Massachusetts begins and ends. Okay, here's Connecticut, Rhode Island, etc. Okay, so I want to create an elevation profile right across Massachusetts. There's a couple of ways you can do this. You can click on this ruler here, or you can add a path. Okay, so either way, let's do add a path, and we'll call this MA elevation profile. Okay, click OK. That's going to be a new elevation profile. Oops. I want to actually add the path. There we go. So excuse me, before you save it, you want to actually make the profile. So I'm going to just click and click. Okay, so from making an elevation profile from one end of the state to the other. Okay, you might want to get it right on the border. Okay, I did it a little bit off and into the ocean. Okay, now I want to MA profile. Okay, so there we go. Now I want to see the elevation profile of this line that I just made. Another way you can do this, so I guess I'll show you this before I move on, you can also do it through the ruler. So if I click the ruler, it'll also measure it for you. So now this time I'm going to try to get it, whoops, right on the border. So I'm going to try to be as exact as possible. Okay, so those are the two ways that you can do it, either through ruler or through the path. And then you just say save. And then you can name it. So MA profile 2. And click OK. Okay, so now I have 2 profiles running right through Massachusetts. Okay, I want to see the elevation profile of this line that I just made. And MA profile 2 ended up in the temporary tab, so we can just drag that to our folder. Okay, you right click on it, and then it'll say show elevation profile. It'll show that at the bottom. Okay, and when you run, go back to Google Pro, when you run your mouse over it, oops, right, it'll show you where the elevation rises and falls across your profile. Okay, so you can see Massachusetts, there's some low elevations, some really high elevations, it goes back down low again, and then it drops off to sea level, so really low. Okay, I want to take a screenshot of this, so I will do that. Control Shift 4 for me. And then I just screenshot just the elevation profile itself. Okay, it's done that. Okay, and then I want to insert that. So I'm going to do that on my Word document. Go back here. Okay, so I've done an elevation profile across Massachusetts. make a screen capture of the profile itself and paste it here below. On the profile, use insert shapes to draw circles around the highest and lowest points of the profile. Okay, so let me insert my screenshot. So insert. Insert. Pictures. Picture from file. And then I'll go to my desktop, the screenshot I just took. It'll insert my profile. Now I want to highlight the highest and lowest points. So I will just really simply, and you can do this whatever way you want, but the easiest way for me is to insert shapes, insert a circle. Now I'm going to find the highest point, and you can be more exact. This looks like the highest point. I'm going to draw a circle around it. Okay, and then just change it so it is, there's no fill, or excuse me, yeah, no fill. Okay, now I can see the highest point. I want to do that again with the lowest point. I'll just copy and paste, and then this is my lowest point. Maybe I want to change the color so I could differentiate between the highest and lowest points. Okay, so as simple as that. Go in through Google Earth, take an elevation profile. You can do it either way, with the rulers or with the path. Right click, show elevation profile, and it'll show it at the bottom here. Then you just take a screenshot and find the highest and lowest points. Okay, so that's as simple as it gets for number 4. I'll let you all do the questions. Explore Google Mars, Moon, and Sky. So one really cool tool that you can use in Google Earth is, and I'm going to get rid of these. Again, and you can click these layers on and off so you don't have to see them all the time. Let's say I want to keep that elevation profile line, but I don't want to see it on my map all the time. So I can keep it, I just uncheck it so I don't have to see it. Okay, same with any of these layers. You know, they will all be saved in your folders, in your My Places folder, but you don't necessarily have to see it if you don't want to. Okay, so I'm going to just switch Google Earth to another Google planetary body. So I go to my Saturn tab, and whichever one you want. So let's say I want to go to the moon. It'll switch to Google Moon. Give it a couple seconds, maybe a minute, because it does take a little bit to get there, but it will do it. Spinning and spinning. Again, Lab 8 is really just to get accustomed with Google Earth Pro. So don't stress out about Google Earth. It's relatively simple once you get the hang of it. It is a new software, so I can understand if people get a little anxious about it, but it's really a simple thing to use. Okay, this is taking a little bit. Again, my computer's a little overwhelmed at the moment. Okay, I'll let it do its thing. But that's how you change it. So let's go back to the document and see if there's any other things I missed while it's loading. Okay. Okay, so go explore Google Earth, Moon, and Sky, and then take a screenshot of whatever your favorite view is. Okay, so that can be anything. Explore the web version of Google Earth. So click on this link. It'll take you to a tour of 11 different mountains. Go through those 11 mountains, find your favorite one, and then find it again on Google Earth Pro. Okay, so type it into the search bar here, and navigate where your favorite mountain is from this Google Earth tour. And then just do the same thing that I just showed you. So make an elevation profile across that mountain. So make a line, right click, and then show elevation profile, and then compare the two. So compare your mountain with Massachusetts. So does it look like this? Does it look completely different? Is there really high elevations? Are there really low elevations? Are there both? Okay, here Google Earth is waking up. So it'll be taking me to the moon someday. And then the last question is to enter the flight simulator. So that's a really cool tool. Again, you don't have to produce anything for this question, but it's just to show you what you can do in Google Earth. So you can fly a plane virtually through your mountain through Google Earth. Try not to crash. This is still taking a while to load, and it's mostly my computer, so hopefully your computers are faster than mine. And also, because I'm recording, it's not very friendly. But if it doesn't load, I'll give it another minute. But if it doesn't load, I'm just going to cut it off, because I think you can all get the point from all of the tools that you can use and how to navigate them. So really simple. It's not too complicated. I can upload another video showing you how to open up a KMZ file. It's really simple. That can be another video. But really, you have a KMZ file. Let's say if I go to my folders here, and here I have a KMZ folder already loaded. But if you have a folder of KMZs, which you will have, because I will give them to you via Brightspace, you go to these KMZ files, you just right-click them, and it'll say Open With, and you can say Google Earth Pro. And once you do that, this file will open up in Google Earth Pro. So let's see if Google Earth is... Okay, so now we are on the moon. Okay, so you can switch what type of planetary body you're on. So now I'm exploring the moon. Okay, and if I want to zoom in on the moon, there's all different things that you can do here. So you see here you have different tours that you can go on. And you can click on each of these links and read what they say. Okay. And again, play with these layers, so turn them on and off. You have global maps here, so you can see different views of the moon, or if you're on Mars, you can see different views of Mars. So this is a colorized terrain layer that you can turn on and off. Here's a mosaic of the lunar orbiter. Again, there's all these different layers. Really just play with it and see all of the different options that you have. Guided tours, so you can go on a guided tour of the moon. If you want, you can go on Apollo 11, click on this, go through it. You can just double click and it'll take you on this tour of the moon via Apollo 11 with Buzz Aldrin. So again, so much you can do in Google Earth. It's a really cool tool. Don't get too hung up on it. You may have a slightly different version than I do, but usually they're pretty much the same. They don't really change that much between the versions. So you should be able to see all of these tools no matter what Google Earth Pro you're on. You should have this toolbar at the top. You should have the places folders on the left, layers on the left, and then lat, longitude, elevation, eye elevation on the bottom. And then again with these navigation wheels on the right hand side, okay, which will give you your zoom, whether you're looking north, south, when you want to get a 3D, and tilt your view so you're not looking at it directly head on, and then moving left, right, up, down, etc. Okay, so really just play with it. Try to get comfortable with the different buttons, just flying around, navigating. Lab 8 is set up to be very, very simple, so that you can get accustomed to the different things you can do. That's it for now. If I want to open up a KMZ file really quickly, let's say I want to look at these tsunamis, which is next week's lab. Again, open with Google Earth Pro. It might be funky. Okay, so switch to Earth. So we might not be able to because it might take a long time and I don't want to keep this video too long. But you just open up this layer and it'll take you to Google Earth Pro, and it'll give you that data file in your folder. So it'll probably stick it in this temporary places until you want to save it. Then you just drag it to your My Places. Okay, so pretty simple. Google Earth is very, very user-friendly. It's very accessible for all types of people. So you don't have to be a computer whiz. It's loading. Okay, I won't keep this video very long. But just make sure that you're switching between layers, and Google Earth will obviously ask you that you're going back to Earth because it's a layer that's attached to Earth data. So again, just give it a couple minutes. If it's loading for a long time, it's just because there's a ton of data that it has to load. That's it for now. I'll end this video so it doesn't take up too much time. It takes a very long time to upload a video to YouTube, so I'll try to keep these videos pretty short. But anyway, so let me know, email me with any questions, and I hope you all have fun with Google Earth because it is super cool and there's a ton you can do with it relatively easily. Okay, so let me know, and I hope the rest of the lab goes well.